We're back. Everyone's here. We got hundreds of people asking questions already before we even start. We're going to talk about the selection node in Composer, which Catherine, you had a good idea. It is a cool addition to the control nodes. So you prepared a nice little composition for me to make my life a little easier, which I appreciate. And then I'm going to dive into showing you how to add the selection dropdown. And so you can change a logo. We're going to start with the basics. So I guess we just dive right in, go into I'll share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go to share this. Okay. So everyone can see my screen here. I am in, let's go ahead and take a look at this composition that we have.
Before you dive in, Stephen, really fast, can you just, you knew I was going to ask that.
All right, so let's take a look at this composition. This is a pretty basic composition that Catherine prepared. And as you can see, let's start with the root. At the root level, we just have one sub-composition. She called it subscribe. So it's a subscribe lower third. I'm just going to go ahead and animate it in and animate it out with the navigator. So bring up the navigator. Let's just take a look at what we're working with here. So it comes in, pops in. Ooh, we don't have a logo. Ooh, we're going to fix that. There should be a logo right here. So I'm going to go into the subcomposition, and the image is, was earlier, Catherine and I were setting this up. I think I messed this up. Let's just unlink this and delete this. So forget you saw this. This is what this should look like. And I'm going to connect the image to a simple control node called image, and it's going to show the YouTube logo. So normally, to change out this logo in Singular Studio, you would select the logo, and I got a bunch of logos here. I think these are actually different ones than the ones there. Let's just scale this down. That was your suggestion this morning, which makes sense. Let's make this that's fine, just like this. So normally, you search for a logo that have been imported, or I should say uploaded into your Singular account, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to change this from, instead of doing it via a image control node. Again, we're using the image control node right here, and that's what you're seeing here. Okay, so we're going to change this. Instead of the image control node, we're going to use the selection control node, because we want to make a list. The end goal here is to make a list of logos from a dropdown. So let's call this, instead of image, since we can't have two control nodes the same name, I'm just going to call this logo. And now what I need to do is I'll click here, and you can see you'll get a little, don't be afraid of our friend JSON, right? JSON's not hard. So let's just do the real basics. What we're doing here is we're going to give, let's start with the word title. The title is what will show up in the selection. I'm just going to close this for a second. This is the title. Right now you see title 1 and title 2. So I'm going to edit this payload, and let's just call the first one, let's go with the basics. Let's call the first one YouTube. And the second one, what do you think, Catherine? Facebook?
Instagram, maybe.
Instagram.
Or Facebook, that's one.
Okay. And now I'm going to hit save. And you can see that the titles have changed, but nothing's happening. So what we need to do is we need to, just like here in this, in the image, we're sending a path, an image path to the image logo right here, and it's connected. So what I need to do is I need to disconnect this guy, the image control node, from here, and I need to connect it here, the ID. So I need an image path for YouTube. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to jump to the dashboard. I've already imported all these logos as SVGs. So the first one was YouTube. And in the dashboard, when you select an asset that's been uploaded, again, I uploaded these images. They live here in this directory called logos. There's the inspector button, far right, and you get a URL. So if I copy this and I open up another browser tab, it's going to come in really small because these are 24. Oh, actually, I take it back. See, that's what I was talking about earlier. There's the logo. It's massive, right? That's fine. These are SVGs, so they're scalable vector graphics, right? So they're resolution independent, which means they can be as big as you want them or as small as you want them, and they're still going to render really nicely. Okay, I'm digressing. Let's copy the URL, Let's go back over to the composition, back over to the selection control node, and we got our first URL. So I'm going to swap out ID1 with the URL. Now, again, if I make a mistake here, let's say I forget a quote, this has to be formatted correctly. This is just a simple payload, JSON payload. So it has to be formatted. And you'll get that dial, the red around the outside. It'll say selections must be an array of objects of ID and title. So there's rules here. You have to have the word ID and you have to have the word title. So there's a couple of rules. It's not horrible. Again, if you mess this up, and you have to get the formatting correctly. So I'm going to hit save. So now, if I go to Instagram, nothing happens. If I go to YouTube, still nothing happens. But before I do that, let's grab the Instagram logo as well. So back here, I need to get the Instagram logo and swap that out with ID2. Back to the dashboard. Let's go find my Instagram logo. Copy it. Back to the composition. And then instead of ID2, let's paste it and hit save. And you're going to see nothing's going to happen because now what we need to do is connect logo to image. Bing. And you can see it's going to, if I did my work, oh, did I correct that? Did I hit that right? Logo. There we go. Instagram, it's going to swap back and forth. And you can see it during the update animation as well. The update animation is getting triggered because when I assign, again, well, it's pretty straightforward. All I'm doing is this payload is attached to one property of the image widget. The property is the image itself. See how it says properties of the image widget. These are different properties. So all we're doing is we're just passing this ID in the payload to this property of the image widget. Pretty cool.
With a custom title. So you can name those drop-down titles, whatever you want, whatever's convenient for your operator, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's nice because you have that's what will appear in the drop-down. Did I miss anything, or should we go on to preparing myth? Let's say you have a long list, quite a long list, and you say, you know what, this is a little cumbersome. Should we dive into that?
We can, but I wanted to cover one thing first, which is that there are some properties that you can connect a control node to, meaning they have an underline under them, right? That have a drop down already as a default. So if you look at object fit for that image, for example, that's a drop down. So if you click on contain, the actual drop down, let's just see what the values are before we create anything. Contain, cover, fill. So if you create a control node right from that object fit property, it will create a drop-down control node for you. Yep, which is awesome.
So a selection control node. Well, yeah, exactly. Selection control node. You can, that's a very good point. You can see it right here. You know, it's the same structure. I think that's a good point to point out where you see the object fit. You'll also run into that in like, I use this in the current date and time widget as well when I want to change the time zone. So that's another spot where I use it. Let's go ahead and delete this one. And let's expand on this. So let's just say you have all of your social handles. And again, you don't want to, you know, this gets a little, if this gets really long, this list gets a little cumbersome to work with. So what we want to show you today is I'm going to jump over to a Google Sheet where I have, actually, let's get rid of color. And as you can, I have prepped this Google Sheet. I'm going to open this up so you can see what I have here is the ID and title. And I have the ID in column 1 and the title in column 2. The names of the social platforms and all of the paths that I copied and pasted out of the Singular dashboard. So these are web links. So for example, if I click on this one, I'm going to get the Discord logo. It's actually quite small here. Again, it doesn't matter. It's because it's scalable vector graphics, so it's going to scale up anyways. Okay.
And you can use any sort of links. They don't have to be file paths to your dashboard, just as a reminder. I'm sure you guys already know that, but anywhere on the web, you can pull a link, an image link.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice. You know, take advantage of the Singular dashboard and uploading images, because you do get, again, just speaking of that, you do get the nice inspector here where you can see the file size. which is kind of handy. And also, you know, it's going to be there. If you just use something off the web, like a logo set off the web, those paths might change and then you lose your links.
That's true.
Okay, so let's go back over to this guy here. And now there's a really cool extension that I've added. It's called the export sheet data. I've added this to
let
Google.
me provide that link for you guys.
Definitely provide that link. And when that opens up, it's going to open up in the far right hand corner. And if we scroll down, don't get overwhelmed by this export sheet data. It's pretty powerful. It can basically convert a Google, not basically, what it does is it takes a Google sheet and it converts the data into various different formats. In this case, we want export cell arrays. And if you roll over, you get a little description. So those of you out there that aren't super like, you know, maybe programmers or scripters or that kind of thing, don't be overwhelmed by this tool. Once you get the settings down, it's pretty good. And I'm certainly not a programmer, nor I'm kind of a hack scripter. But these two options, if they're selected, export contents as an array and export cell arrays, if I visualize this, all it's going to do is going to take this data and it formats it exactly. And I'm going to copy this. It formatted it exactly the way we need for the payload within the selection node dropdown. So again, all I have to do is select all, paste, right? No red errors here, and then hit save. And now I've quickly prepared all of the logo paths, and I'm just passing all the logo paths. So it's really handy. Again, this list can get kind of long. You know, you might have 20 or 30 elements in here, or paths, or colors, and I'll get into that in a minute. So for example, if we change this around a little bit, let's do color. I'm going to add another one called color, and let's call it color. I call it color. Let's go get the data for the color. So all I have to do, back to my Google Sheet. Now Catherine pointed out, just hold on, because I had the colors already picked out. Now, when I say the colors, these are the sort of primary colors for the social media platforms. So I'm going to copy this, come over to the logos, and instead of the logos paths, I'm going to use color and change this to ID.
Yeah, that has to stay as ID.
And all I need to do is visualize this. Again, it's formatted nicely, copy, come back over to the composition for color, select all, paste, save. And now, what do we want to attach this to? Well, we've got the title base. Let's see, let's do behind the logo, this logo base. But this one, where is it? I guess we got two logo bases in here. So for the fill, for the logo base.
Yeah, there's a couple in there.
Oh, I might have just deleted it. I might have duplicated it or something.
Yeah, I think that was an in animation thing.
Oh, then let me leave it. I'm going to undo and we'll connect it to both. Let's, so the fill of the logo base, that's that color behind the logo. Let's connect it to color, and same with this one up here to color. And hopefully you might see the first time it's going to want you to select it. Still says ID1. That's all you have to do is just select it once. And now you can see it's going to change the color. Let's go out. There you go. And we could also do the same with this piece right here, which is the title base. Let's turn this and this guy. So let's do the title base. Again, color.
And the reason those are different tones, I think, is there's an effect on there, a brightness effect, just in case you guys were curious.
It's a nice trick. I see what you did. So under effects, oh, yeah, I've got it sort of grayscale.
Oh, it's a grayscale. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. You could even if this was 100 and you just did the brightness at say 50, maybe you have saturation changed or something. What do we have here?
This was an old lower.
Oh, here it is. There you go. So this is a nice trick. So we've got two colors, the top and the bottom, but they're both getting sent the same color value for YouTube. But one is just the bottom one, the brightness is set to 50%. So if we go to Discord, is this working? And then go to Discord here. Now,
that brings up a larger discussion here, which people are probably wondering. you can see ideally in a scenario like this, if you're trying to change color and logo or a number of different properties at once, you're just going to want to have one selection dropdown in an ideal world. So like, for example, you just have that lower dropdown, select Discord, the logo would change and the color would change. That gets into scripting territory, which we said we didn't want to dive into today, but it is possible to extend the functionality of this selection dropdown so that if you choose one thing, it can update multiple different properties just besides one.
Yes, and we're going to do a chapter 2 on this because I'm sure that the crowds of hundreds of people watching this video, they're going to say, we want to be able to do that. And it makes sense. And we do that a lot for a lot of different customers do that, but it does involve some scripting. It's not crazy scripting. It's just basically what happens without diving into it today is this whole array is going to actually live in the composition script as opposed to here. This will just be a lookup to a table in a composition script, and then we can assign multiple values across the composition. It's pretty cool. But again, we're going to save that for another thing. This isn't horrible. If you have to do like, I don't know, let's just do Instagram and then Instagram. You're going to get the color for Instagram and the logo. You might have a primary color and a secondary color. But again, the purpose of this particular demo is was to show you how nice it is to use this simple little tool called the export sheet data. There's another, actually, we didn't even talk about this, Catherine, but I also use change case. It's another Google extension that's super nice. So for example, if you have all of this text right here, I can use the extension change case and make it all uppercase. And it's just going to work its way down the line and make everything uppercase. Really nice tool. These kinds of tools are so valuable for when you're in production and you're really making custom graphics. The tools inside of that I use extensively inside of Google Sheets are export sheet data for things like we're showing you here today. Change case is a super powerful one, and also the color picker. I use this extensively.
Yeah, the color picker is nice. We have a few questions in here.
Oh yeah, hit me with some questions.
Okay, sure. So I think we kind of answered the first one from Mo earlier, I think. The question is, can you not add more properties in JSON than just ID and title? So not in the selection dropdown. The selection dropdown requires those two properties. But if you want, if you're kind of alluding to the fact that you want more widgets to take different properties, I don't know if I'm wording this correctly, but your selection dropdown to affect multiple different widgets, then that's when you, like we said, you need to use the composition script. And then there's another, I'm not entirely sure if it's a question. I guess it is a question. The logos are inside of a square, how to remove it.
I prepped those. Yeah, the logos are inside of a square because those assets were prepped outside of,
they are square logos. Yeah.
Yeah, I made them in Illustrator, the actual logos. You'd have to edit these externally outside of Singular to get them. Exactly.
And then Lars is asking if we can flip the logo. Lars, do you mean flipping the logo with the selection dropdown? Inverting it?
If you mean invert, you could do right here.
Oh, I see. Getting rid of the square. The square is the actual image is square.
Yeah.
So
the square is in the image. So you need an image. You need a set of logos that are round. I mean, I've got a bunch of different sets of social media logos that I use for different projects. Some are round, some are square, some are just the logos. Speaking of that, I'm going to just give a plug out to a website that I found that you guys might like. It's called Icon Monster. It's free. So these guys have a lot, and just do a simple search on like Twitch. Now they're all grayscale. They're going to be black and white, but this is a great shout out. This site I use extensively. So this is, you're going to get your logos and you can download them for free. It's called, again, Icon Monster. We can provide that link, Catherine, if you want to.
Yeah, can you drop that to me?
It's a really
You guys
good
might be
one.
able to memorize that. but-
Super efficient. And the reason I really like, bear with me here. Let me find my meeting controls. Where's the chat? I can drop it in there.
Oh yeah, that works.
There you go. Icon Monster super. Oh yeah, Lars did that as well. Thank you.
Oh,
Lars.
you dropped that to the, oh, okay.
Just to
Yeah,
you
that's
and the
good.
panelists
You dropped
now?
that to the, yeah, it's a default thing in our chat.
Everyone. All right, now I got, well, Lars already got me. Anyways,
Yeah.
the reason I like that Icon Monster for a resource is all of the logos are normalized to the same size. So it's really, really helpful. So maybe there's like, little emojis and hearts and whatever you want to put in there, but I find it very helpful.
Can we show one more application of the selection dropdown? Because there's a lot of different like things you can use it for. It's not just for images and colors. Can we do position? Is that?
Yeah.
We do that
So,
a lot. So
absolutely. Yeah. Let's do positions. So let's take this particular graphic, the way it's built, as you can see, it's built with individual groups. So the group positions are going to be, let's see where they're all located. They're in different positions. The title is at 9. You can see here the logo's at 1, and that's fine. It's many ways to skin a cat. There's nothing wrong with the way this is built. But to show you this, let's just go, and generally speaking, when I start say a lower third, for example, it just depends on the design of it, how I might structure the composition. I might start one way and go totally different. But to your point, Catherine, let's just move the position here at the group level, at the subcomp level. So let's just say we either want it over here or over here. So we've got a value of 0, and we've got another value on the right-hand side. We'll call it 44. So again, all I need to do is make a selection, and we'll call this position. Oh. And we can we'll edit it right here. So the ID is going to be 0 for the left side. The name of it that's going to be in the dropdown is left. And the next one down is 44. It's pretty straightforward. Again, I have a feeling our next one, when we show multiple properties, we'll get a lot of because if
it's going to be really powerful.
Left, right, but it's got to be this has to be connected to position here, position. So now we're on the right hand side, and now we're on the left. Pink,
pretty cool.
Pink. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So you can do that with
you can do it
hex colors, right? Color values, position, rotation, scale, image. All you're essentially doing is passing a value or a string to a specific property of a widget, or to a group, or in this case, to a subcomposition.
Yep.
Right, to the transformation. Any more?
And not all properties, as you guys have probably discovered, can be connected to a control node, but a fair amount can be. So
yeah,
I mean, rotation, you can, I don't know why you would want that. Maybe you would want that. You can connect a rotation to a selection dropdown. Do we want to show time format? I think that's really powerful. Okay, let me see if I can get a payload for you while you set up a time widget.
Yeah,
this might be a little bit of a rabbit hole.
So let's just do in the title group, I'm going to turn on bounding box, and what I'm going to do is on the subtitle text, just justify it to the left, and let's just bring this in a little bit. So we're going to make this a nice round number of 67. So down here, I'm going to add another widget, and it's called current date and time. Okay, when I bring it in, you're gonna be like, hey, nothing happened. There's nothing there.
Pretty complex widget.
Yeah, it's super cool though. So I'm going to take the thank you text, the subtitle text 1. I'm simply going to copy that and go to the current date and time. I'm going to paste so it's exactly on top of it. I like to do this. It's kind of a shortcut just to get it in the same position, except now what I'll do is I'll put the anchor point to the right. I'll slide it over, not all the way to the end, but maybe -1. And then let's bring it into like, I don't know, 10, maybe a little bit bigger, 20. So that's where it's going to live. You still see nothing, but I've got a bounding box. That's where the current date and time is going to live. So the menu for current date and time, this specific widget needs its own subcomposition, and we create that for you automatically when you hit this edit button. So we got to go down the rabbit hole where, and the reason we do this is because this has built in what we call widget nodes. These are built into the widget itself. So if I bring a piece, obviously we need text. So I'm just gonna, I don't even have to rename this, but I'm gonna call it format, because this is the one I use 99% of the time, is format. And why? Because I'll connect this to the widget nodes format, okay? And now you can see it's kind of small here. So let's make this full 100% in there. And then let's make it like 80, maybe a little bit more. So it's not so, and then I'm also gonna center it. A little bit of setup, but again, it's not horrific. Let me give a, I don't even know
While
what
you're
font.
doing that, I dropped everybody a sample JSON payload for the time format property. So you can just copy that from the chat here when you're ready.
I'm just gonna get rid of all these fonts that are in here in the drop down. We'll just use Open Sans. Okay, so we're gonna go with Open Sans, and let's make this semi-bold. Okay, so I'm done here. Again, I'm in the sub composition. I'll bring up the navigator. I'm down here in the sub composition of the current date and time widget. Back up the tree, hit subscribe. Okay, there you can already see the time immediately because it's doing hours, minutes, and seconds. HH, MM, SS. I'm going to leave that alone because the purpose of this demo is to do what Catherine was saying with the time zone. So the time zone.
No, format. I mean, we could do time zone. But
we could do, yeah, we could do,
you want to do format?
Let's do format.
That's what I
Okay,
grabbed.
so format,
JSON.
when you click on this, we're going to take the name of the widget here. So let's just change this and just make it a little smaller. It's called time format. Just a shorter name. Okay, so right now this is hours, minutes, and seconds. Now you wouldn't want to have to like edit this little thing. If you get rid of the two S's at the end, it's not going to display seconds. So let's go ahead and use a selection dropdown. Selection.
Yeah, much better than.
Let's just call this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just call this format. I'm gonna call this format time. Again, you can't have two control nodes with the same name. That's why I just gave it a different name. Okay, so I already know that this is HHMM. Copy. I'm gonna delete this one. So let's start building the array for the selection dropdown for setting time. So the first one is going to be HHMM, and let's add those seconds back in. And I'll come back to this formatting for a second. And then we're going to call this hours dash min dash sec, something like that. Does that look good? And then we'll do the next one is we'll call the next one, we'll just do hours and minutes. Hours and minutes, and then save. And now all I have to do is connect this selection dropdown to the formatting of the current date and time widget. And let's see what happens. Did I mess it up? No, there it goes.
No,
you can see hours. Oh, I didn't give it a, yeah, that's fine. This one, I should name this something a little bit more. Just call it hours / minutes. Just something like that. Oh, you can see I made an error in the JSON payload. Save. And now you got two. Now, this little, as long as we're right here, because I have to show this one, how would you know what are the available formats?
Yeah.
Again, all widgets, I think all widgets, pretty much. We've done a pretty good job on this. There's a little, let me come back to that little question mark. It's going to drop out to the help page. And down here under display, I believe, settings. No, where is that?
It's under display in the format section.
Oh, here it is. In display format, this is super important piece to this article about the current date and time widget. Again, you can see this example. This is in the template library where I made an analog clock, which you can totally do. Again, most of the time I'm showing text, like as the clock, but this was kind of a fun one where I built everything using the current date and time widget with as an analog clock. But I digress. Format. This guy right here, this link, super, super powerful. We use moment.js for our formatting. So you have all these different formatting options. Now it looks a little overwhelming to start, but it's not, because you can stack this up. You can stack these things up. Like, for example, there's one that I use quite a lot. It's called down here. See this one? It's just the letter L. If you type in the letter L, you're going to get month, numeral, day of month and year. And it's going to get formatted like this. If you do LL or LLL. So if I take this, just copy this, go back over to the payload, and let's just disconnect it so we can just for a second, and I'll just type in LLL. You see that? It's all jammed in there, but you get the idea. Let's get rid of, just call it just L. So that's the current date in that format. I could just do like D. I don't know what D does. I think that's like the 20. Again, all of the examples are in here. Just the letter D uppercase gives you, it's the day of the month, day of the year.
We have a question here, Stephen, while you're scrolling through this. Is this supported in other languages? That's an interesting question. I mean, this moment.js is in English, so
you know, that's a darn good question. I'm not sure. I am not sure.
I mean, your time zones are going to apply to anywhere across the world, right? You can do translating from Sunday to other languages, for example. It's a good question. We have to look into that.
I can tell you the not brute force way, but certainly there you could do, if you have scripting chops, you could translate in a composition script from English to, say, German, for example. But I don't know if they have you'd have to do some digging around in moment.js if they have other languages. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's a very good question.
We were just informed by Brendan. If you scroll all the way down, it seems to have multiple locale support.
I don't know. Now here we go down a cool little rabbit hole. Customize the current locale. Time is running in your second, the breakdown of the strings. I don't know.
Maybe not necessarily language. Oh, it's on the home page. Can you click on the or just go to get rid of the ending of that URL and go to the home page? Or yeah, that works.
Moment.
Multiple locale support. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay. I learned something new today.
I did too. I'm not a moment.js expert by any means. If I select German, I don't know what that's going to do for me. Black Lives
Maybe
Matter.
It just moves your.
Honestly, I don't know. You'd have to do some digging. I'm sure it does it.
Something.
But I'm not a moment.js. I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole of moment.js, but I'm sure it does it.
That is cool though. And if we jump back to the composition script and you're in this sort of rabbit hole, not a rabbit hole, but you want this functionality for the time widget, you can also obviously select time zone. And I think that's, what are the options there? Local.
Oh,
so can you create the control node based off of that property? You don't have to prepare that payload. It's there for you once you create it. So you can change your time zone on the fly, which is really nice.
There's one, you know what, as long as I love these this format because we can just kind of roll down some rabbit holes. This offset one is really, really cool because right now I'm in Eastern Standard Time. So I have, sometimes you need to offset the clock because of the time zone difference. Move springing forward and back an hour or forward an hour. And that's because like places like even in the United States, for example, like Arizona doesn't, they don't do time zone change. I believe the whole state, I'm pretty sure
they don't do daylight savings.
No, they don't do daylight savings. And I think there's another state, I can't remember. So that's why you have this offset in here. So for example, right now it's Eastern Standard Time, daylight time is 10:38. But if I offset this by 3600, it jumps forward an hour, as opposed to if I go negative 3600, it's going to go back an hour. So, but
Just try
that's
to do the
kind of
math there.
not very intuitive for people, which makes sense. So what you can do is I do this for some customers where I just do daylight savings time. And again, we're going to use we're going to give you another example of why the selection dropdown is so powerful. So I'm making a daylight savings time, and you guessed it. What I'm going to do is for the ID, I'm going to make the first one 0 and call it none. So you don't want to change the time. You want to leave it to exactly what it comes in at based on the time zone. And then this one I'm going to put forward. Or you know what, let's do something more like, can we do +1? Yeah, +1 hour maybe.
Yeah, that's better. Daylight savings confuses me. I feel like a lot of people get confused.
So for the +1 hour, you want to go 3600 forward. And now let's copy. We're going to edit this, paste, and now we're going to change this to -1 hour, or back. I'm just using -1 +1. And now I just connect this to offset daylight savings time, and you get this nice drop down. So this leaves it alone. None is going to leave it. So I am set to local. So it's looking at my local computer, right? Because that's what most people will do. They'll set it to local, and then you can go forward an hour or back an hour. And now,
unless you're covering, you know, like different areas across the world on a news.
Let me make sure this is,
station
I
or
think I
something.
messed this up here. Oh, I see, there's a common mistake. I put the title, I switched the ID in the title. Actually, I'm glad I did this. I like when I make mistakes on this because I make more mistakes than I do things correctly. It should have been like this. This is +1 hour. And this should be -3600. And we go back, and then we paste. There we go. So now none leaves the clock to local. This goes up an hour, this goes back an hour. And this, the leading 0, why is there a leading 0 in there? That's because the format has 2 H's in front of it. Right? It has HH. So if I go over to my format time, again, all selection, we're sticking with, let's get rid of the first H on both of these, because maybe you don't want the leading 0. And now if I go to, yeah, there it's gone. See, it's just 9. Now, if you want the AM PM, that's another little change to the Moment.js payload. So under format, I believe it's, if you put the letter A after it, I'm not mistaken.
There's a whole payload that I pasted in our chat if you want to just copy paste it. Or
yeah, so now you'll get the, it'll switch to PM,
nice.
that big A. Again, that's all in Moment.js, which you find in the question mark display, the little thing. Any more questions? I like the questions. Tuesday questions.
Yeah, we're a little bit over time, but it's okay. I think we went into some interesting topics.
Well, we stayed on the selection box. We showed a bunch of different examples of where to use selection. Again, it is just one property. It's a value being set to one property of one widget. We will cover multiple properties across multiple widgets if you wanted. We do that kind of stuff all the time, but that's going to be in a script. And if you want that, you got to pound away on us and request it, and we'll do it.
Any questions before we close everything out today?
All quiet.
I don't think so.
Chat front.
Yep.
Now, are we going to provide this composition?
We can.
People want it. We'll let people request it. I think what we covered is pretty straightforward. I hope everyone that's watching is not confused by the selection drop down, but it does have lots of different use cases. like Catherine said, position, any property. Position is a good one. I use that quite a bit. The time zone offset for daylight savings time, I've used it there. Setting logos, setting colors.
Scale.
Yeah.
Position.
You could
so
even
many
use
things.
it at the root level of a composition to set global colors. You could do that.
Ruben says could send data from the API to select.
From the API
Not my area of expertise.
you mean to the drop down itself? That's a good question. I don't think so, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, that's going to involve scripting in a different sort of approach.
You know what? We can double back with Thomas and the guys and ask them that. But if you have a detailed example, like what you're trying to accomplish, send it into the feedback into support. And when we do our more advanced version of this demo with setting multiple properties selection node, it'd be a script. Maybe we can cover that question from the last viewer. I'm going to close out of some of these windows. I think that's everything for me, unless there's any other questions. I think we're good.
We did have another one come in here. For Mo, how would it be useful if you had another, maybe a little language barrier here. How would you have another icon or color in the selection control node if there is a JSON control node there? I don't know if I understand that. Do you understand that, Stephen?
Let me see. Look at it. Hold on. Let me look at the chat.
Okay.
Be useful if you have another icon color to select. Sorry,
maybe he.
I think it's asking for the exact same thing. Setting, if you want to set two properties via the selection dropdown, like color and logo, you'd need two selection boxes to merge them into one. Again, that will be in this the next video that we do which involves scripting.
Yeah.
There's a control node.
Oh, colorize the drop down in the graphic.
Oh no, he's asking about the JSON text.
Oh.
This one here.
Oh, I think our chat's doing a better job answering questions than us.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how the JSON
Sorry, Mo.
control node would it doesn't really work with the selection.
Yeah, having control nodes talk to each other, that's not built into the interface.
Oh, you mean prepping the JSON here and having it auto update this list, for example? I'm not sure about that.
Possibly. Sounds interesting.
We might be able to cover those more. We might have to suck Thomas in for some more advanced stuff if there's some of those types of questions. I don't know the use. I don't really understand the use case, I guess is what I'm getting at for the JSON control node. And the JSON control node is used for more, I'll call it advanced stuff, I'll call it, probably.
Yeah, and then Lars is also asking for something interesting, which is, can you change the graphics interface to change colors, for example? So if you had one selection, that selection would be like yellow. So for time zone, local would be yellow. Something else would be another color. We don't have that available in Composer, but I mean, we can talk to the developers and see if that's something that's of broader interest, because from an operator standpoint, color coding these selection dropdowns could make their lives a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, yes, I know the guys have, aspirations for reworking the control nodes in general in terms
Yeah.
of like version 2.0, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, where you could, you know, make these a little more color coded or tagged or what have you. So yes, and I would say that I think I get a sense that this setting multiple properties from a selection is going to be a really good next video for us.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll merge this. So when you select Instagram, for example, you're going to get, you know, the color, their color, or maybe even two colors, the primary color, secondary color, the logo,
and maybe your handle too, right?
Your handle, absolutely. And
Which
you know,
might be different.
we have lots of examples of that. The one I might grab is one. We have two examples of that where we're going to show you guys how to do multiple set colors, logos, handles, your specific handle, all in the payload. But again, that's scripting, which is a much longer video. It's not horrible, but it's definitely we'll cover it. Any other general questions on the basics?
I think that's it.
All right.
I think we can wrap it up.
Wait, I got a text from Thomas. Maybe he's got one.
You got a text?
I got a text. Let me see here. Ah, yes.
Oh, he's got a sample. Yeah.
Yes. No, Thomas, thank you. This composition is exactly what we're going to show in our next demo. And is this one in the template library?
Tricode, yes, but it's based off of tricodes, not the selection dropdown. So we need to modify it before it's ready for the template library. I believe it's the call up code script.
Yeah, so what Thomas is referencing is for any of you that don't want to wait for the next video and maybe want to tackle this yourself, just go to the template library and under resources, you click resources, there's a call up code script. I'm just going to end with this because I think Thomas has a good point. If there's some people that want to jump ahead and look and dive into this before we do our next video where we go into depth, here's the composition. So I'm going to just go directly to the script editor. And then I'm going to leave you with this. I don't want to do the full demo on this. This is what we were talking about. So
you got to dive in a little bit on this
exactly.
one.
So we're not using I'm not using the selection. We just have a text. This could be converted to selection. So you have to type it in so right here in Google. So if I type in Facebook, it's going to resolve the color, the logo, and the username based on the array. This array, again, when I mentioned earlier in the video in selection dropdown where we made that simple little array just to do one property to one or one value or to one property, you're seeing it here. So we're setting logo, social, username, text, color, and we'll cover this in a deeper. But this, if you want to play around with this, you certainly can. Be forewarned, it is a little bit more advanced because in a lot of cases we're talking directly to the composition tree. Not in a lot of cases in this composition script, we're talking directly to the tree. We're not connecting things to control nodes.
Yeah.
In this script, just FYI for anyone that wants to take a shot at diving in here. So you would edit your lookup here, hit save, and now when you type in the tricode again, this can easily be changed to a selection dropdown as opposed to tricode. The reason these are called tricode is because I think originally when Thomas helped us out with this script is we were doing tricodes for sport logos. So it would be like we were doing, I don't know, like baseball or something. So it would be like SF gave you the Giants, LA gave you the Dodgers. So that's why, or LAD, tricode meaning 3 letters. But don't be worried about that. It's just a naming convention we use. So this will be a fun one. I think definitely this is super powerful because you can really change the look of a graphic. It's much more powerful than say like the global script when we do like our global control nodes. Because again, that's just a one-to-one correlation between one property hitting multiple widgets. This is multiple properties across multiple widgets
Yeah.
script. So I'll leave you with that. So if you want to play around with this, give it a shot. It's certainly there and it's all in template manager. I'm sorry, the template library
library, yeah.
resources, the call up code script. It's a really cool one. I think that's it for me.
All right.
Stop the share. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Lars, thank you so much, guys. It's really cool that you guys jump in and help us with keep us on the straight, and there'll be more to come right after the sort of, well, Thanksgiving break for us in the US.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.